we shall now look into how the judiciary in India interpreted the provisions in ensuring equality and also prohibiting the discrimination against women. In Ranadhir Singh versus Union of India, the Supreme Court brought equal pay for equal work, which is a directive principle, as a part of fundamental right under Article 14. Similarly, in Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan, the Supreme Court prescribed several guidelines while prohibiting sexual harassment at workplace. In Railway Board versus Chandrima Das, the Supreme Court said that even a foreign woman who was raped by the railway authorities is entitled for a compensation under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. In Air India versus Nargish Mirza, the Supreme Court struck down the discriminatory laws which are degrading the women under Air India rules. In Sheila Barse versus State of Maharashtra, the Supreme Court has given lengthy guidelines regarding arrest of women and interrogation of the women who are accused of crimes. It says that at least 4 or 5 police lockups should be selected in reasonably good localities where only female suspects should be kept, and they should not be guarded. They should be guarded by the female constables. And it also says that the female suspect cannot be kept in a police lockup where the males also detained, and the interrogation of the females should be carried out only in the presence of a female constables or police officers. Similarly, in Delhi domestic workers women's case, the Supreme Court says that the complaints of sexual assault cases, the women should be provided legal representation, and such legal assistance must start at the police station itself, and the police should inform the victim that she has such a right to consult a lawyer before any questions asked by the police. That means the providing legal representation not at the time of trial, but even at the time of investigation is secured under this case. And a list of advocates who are willing to provide such an assistance should be kept in the police station. Further, the Supreme Court also says all rape trials, anonymity of the victim must be maintained, and the Supreme Court also directed that a criminal injuries compensation board must be established, and compensation for the victim shall be awarded by the court on conviction of the offender. In State of Maharashtra versus Madhukar Narain, the Supreme Court said that a woman of easy virtue is entitled for privacy, and on the name of women of easy virtue, the state cannot take away her privacy. And in addition to these judgments, there are many other important rulings. For example, the question on whether a DNA testing can be done without the wife consent for the purpose of identifying whether the child belonging to the father or not. The court said that a paternity test by doing a DNA testing cannot be conducted without the wife's consent. And the Supreme Court in another important judgment held that the second marriage by a Hindu husband who converted into Islam without the consent of the wife would be liable for bigamy. And Supreme Court and the court is also struck down certain provisions of Indian Divorce Act, which treats different grounds for the husband and wife for claiming divorce as violation of equality. So, it is very clear that the Constitution had several provisions to protect the women, and the Supreme Court is liberal in interpreting these provisions for the purpose of protecting women. And in addition to that, there are number of women specific legislations. However, all the lists are not possible to be presented here. Therefore, some important legislations were given here. And we will now look into what is the special protection provided for the woman. To start with, under Criminal Procedure Code, the Criminal Procedure Code gives protection to the woman in the process of arrest, and according to section 46, women cannot be arrested after sunset and before sunrise. That means a woman cannot be arrested during night. In case of serious offences, a written report has to be submitted to the Judicial Magistrate First Class, with whose prior permission a woman police officer may cause the arrest. However, in case of suspected female to be searched, only a woman constable can do so under section 100. Similarly, the interrogation of a woman cannot be called at the police station. Interrogation has to be carried out at the place where the woman resides. The identity of a woman has to be protected in cases of sexual offences. The second provision that we are looking at for the protection of women is the legal aid entitlement. Under the Legal Services Authorities Act 1987, section 12 provides that all women are entitled for free legal aid. So, all women means women belonging to any economic strata is automatically entitled to claim legal aid under Legal Services Authorities Act. Similarly, there are family courts which were established specifically to deal with all personal matters like marriages, divorce, maintenance and child custody. So, now let us come to the last one on grievance redressal mechanism. Now, this grievance redressal mechanism we will be looking under regular criminal codes and under different laws. Under the regular criminal codes, once an offence against women was taken place, they come under Indian Penal Code. These offences are redressable through the regular criminal court like Judicial Magistrate, First Class, Sessions Court, High Court and Supreme Court. In Sakshi versus Union of India, the Supreme Court said that in trial of sexual abuse or rape, the proceedings must be in camera. The requirement of a screen or any other arrangement where the victim or the witness will not be able to see the face or body of the accused is necessary, because many times the victim or the witness who has to see the face or body of the accused may lead to the further trauma and fear during the deposition of their statements. The domestic violence. In case of domestic violence, under the Domestic Violence Act, the Domestic Violence Act recognizes 4 kinds of domestic violence. The first one is physical abuse, where any kind of a torture, a physical torture like burning, beating, scaling, etc. is prohibited. The second kind of domestic violence is the verbal and emotional abuse, where any family member verbally or emotionally abuses a woman, it would be a wrong under the Domestic Violence Act. And the third one is a sexual abuse, and the fourth one is economic abuse. Under the economic abuse, not giving money to the wife or the woman would amount to economic abuse. So, the remedies under the Domestic Violence Act are as follows. Once a domestic violence takes place, the woman is entitled for a protection order, and she also can claim monetary and compensatory relief from the family members. She is entitled for medical aid, and she also can claim temporary shelter from the state. In addition to that, she has a right to reside in the household. That means, if the husband who is abusive, and when the wife files a case under Domestic Violence Act, husband cannot driven away his wife because she filed a case. She has a right under the Act to reside in the same house. She also have a right to maintenance during this time, and she also have a right to custody of the children, and she has a right to claim injunction against the perpetrator. Once it amounts to a domestic violence, the complaint can be made to any one of the following officers. First, you can make a complaint to a police officer or a protection officer who was appointed under the Act, or a service provider recognized by the Act, or any magistrate having a jurisdiction could be approached. So, any one among these four are allowed to be approached by a woman. And regarding the filing a complaint, this complaint could be either filed by the woman who suffered the violence, or the victim's relatives, or even the neighbors who have an information, or any other social worker. That means, under the Domestic Violence Act, the complaint not necessarily filed by the victim herself, but any other person who had a knowledge of such abuse could file a case.